Hi, I am. How's it going? Are you ready to do this?
Well, I like some hair, I think. I'm Charmaine Leland St. John, and I am the owner of Echo and Echo. It's a vintage, antique, recycling, repurposing, reinventing, regifting, and reselling store. And originally we were going to call the store the Little Shop of Hoarders, but we were afraid it had a negative connotation, hence we are now Echo and Echo. And everything here basically has either come out of my house or out of my daughter or my grandchildren's closet. And this is one of my favorite pieces. It's from Ike Eisenhower's run for president back in the 50s. And my big joke is that if you open it and you roll some joints and put them in, Eisenhower will roll over in his grave.
That is, we gotta test that out.
And then we have our trump cards.
Nice. So how old are those trump cards? Oh, those are just...
Those are pretty new, and they're unopened.
Okay.
Never used. I haven't opened them because I don't like Trump. And so these are Bruce Lee, and they're called affirmation cards. And Bruce was a very close friend of ours. My boyfriend.
Well, you knew Bruce Lee?
Yeah, my boyfriend was Jay Sebring, and Jay was the one that got him the job playing Kato on the TV series. And Jay was murdered with Sharon Tate from the Manson family. So there's just all this stuff that has memories. I recently sold an outfit that Sharon gave me. She called one day and asked for Jay, and she said to me, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Oh my God, I have this interview for a commercial. I don't know what to wear." And she said, "Don't move a muscle, stay right there." And she showed up with this beautiful little black watch mini skirt with a jacket and a blouse, and I wore it to the interview, and I wound up getting the job. So it was great, but it didn't fit me anymore, so I sold it.
Oh my gosh.
What else do we have here?
Yeah, I grew up with Bruce Lee movies, so I was like a
you
huge
did?
fan of Bruce Lee, the Red Dragon.
Okay.
I can't even believe you knew Bruce Lee.
Yeah. So he used to come over on the weekends, and Sharon and Roman would come over, and he was teaching Sharon Kung Fu because she was doing all of those, how do you say, Matt Helm or something movies, and she had to learn to, break boards and all that kind of stuff. And so he would say to me, "Here, open your hand," and he'd put a dime in my hand, and he'd say, "Now don't let me get the dime." And he'd be like this, and I'd close my hand. He'd go like that, and I knew I still had the dime, and I'd open my hand, and the dime would be gone. He was so quick. His reflexes were inhuman. I just don't even understand how he did all that.
Wow.
So, and most of the things here are from my house, as I said earlier. For instance, this was a gift. Let me see. Jenny Agater gave me a lot of things during our friendship before she moved back to England. And so this was one of the little items that she gave me for my birthday one time. And I have no use for it, and I just figure it has to go to someone else. Somebody else needs to enjoy it. This belonged to Raquel Welch. It was given to me by her boyfriend, Ron Talsky, who was a costume designer. And I remember his mother asked me to speak at his funeral, and I had to follow Pierce Brosnan. That's a hard thing. So the first thing I said was, well, no one could dress a woman like Ron Talsky, and nobody could undress one like he could either. And then when I came off the podium thing, I said to Pierce Brosnan, "Thank you so much for opening for me."
I'm a huge fan of him. 007.
Yeah, he's fabulous. These I bought, and then I decided I didn't really like them enough to hang them in my home. And I have two by this gentleman who is Elliot Clark, and I have one by his father, Walter Clark, which I love. And I have them in my morning room.
Oh.
And then over here we have, this was from the movie. This was from the movie Red Corner. By Ling and Richard Gere.
Yeah, that's a huge movie.
And this I love because it's called a reverse painting, and it's painted on the inside of the glass.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And we also sell my books here.
So you're a writer?
I'm an author and a published author. Right now I have, let me think, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 books of poetry in print. I have 24 Pushcart Prize nominations.
Oh my God, what's your name again?
Charmaine. Here I am.
Oh my.
Is my name on there?
I don't see it.
Oh, isn't that funny? Here, I'm inside maybe. Oh yeah, there I am.
Wow.
And this is one of my recent books. It's called A Raga for George Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
We were living in Italy, and I got an email one day from a publisher in India, and they said, "Can we have your next book?" And I had a next book ready, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to give it to this particular publisher because I kind of knew their work, but I didn't really know if I wanted to trust them with my baby. And so Victor, my husband, and I, we sat down and we spent the whole weekend going through my poetry, and we picked out already published poems from all my other books, and we created a book called A Raga for George Harrison, Raga for George, because they were from India, and I thought, well, they're going to obviously want this book because it has the word raga in it, right? And so we put it together, and it did very well. And I actually went to music school with George, and there's a poem in here about when they played the concert for George. And so that did very well, and a few months later, 6 months later, they texted me again or emailed me and said, "Can we have another book?"
What?
And I said, "Yes."
Is that normal?
Well, if you're a good seller, yeah,
Right.
you know. And so I said, "Sure." And I said, "Under one condition, you publish my children's book as well." And they said, "We'll send it along and we'll see." And it's called The Trip. And I wrote it on LSD back in the 60s.
I love that.
And
The
it
Trip.
took me 50 years to and it's a children's book. It took me 50 years to find someone that I liked to illustrate it for me. And I would do little drawings and send them to her, or find photographs and say, "This is what I want the page to look like." So it was I don't have a copy here right now, but it's a fabulous book. And I'm just waiting for a reprint because we keep selling out. That's one of my best sellers. And these photographs over here, I'm very into photography, and those are all photographs of places
What do you shoot with?
that I visit. You know what they say, the best camera you can use to shoot?
No.
The one you have with you. So I use my iPhone.
Yeah.
Many of those, though, were taken with an Olympus.
Okay.
And the top one is in France. Second one is on the way to Santa Fe from Taos. And then that's Patagonia on the far right top. And then that's Montauk in the middle on the far left. And that's the Pueblo. It's called Willow Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on the Pueblo in Taos. That's Red Willow, the Red Willow people, I think they're called. And then that's another one of the Pueblo next to it. San Francisco is the one above the empty space. And then the middle was the first photo I took with my brand new iPhone, and I was in a
Yeah, I mean,
restaurant.
iPhone's great.
Yeah, I was in a restaurant over in I just got some glass. I was in a restaurant in Santa Monica, and I looked out the window, and I saw this lone sailboat out on the sea. And then this one is in Arlington, Washington, up in Washington State, and it's along the highway by where my fly fishing lodge is up there, and I photograph it during all seasons. And so that's just coming into autumn on that one.
Oh, these are really good
This is Echo
photos.
Thank you. And this is, it's in Austria, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. It comes to me.
And you did the color grade and everything?
Everything, yeah. Go through and pull another one out, put it under his arm. And finally, he had about 5 or 6 albums together, and he came over and he said to me, "How much do you want for these?" So I went through them, and there was a Jimmy Webb album. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, "Do you even know who that is?" And he said, "Yeah, it's my father."
No way.
Yeah. Now, that's not the end of the story. So he buys the records and he leaves. One day, some women came in and they were looking at some records. And I said, "You want to hear a story?" And I told the story, and the girl said to me, "I was there. Jimmy is my father-in-law. I'm married to the guy that you sold that record to." Isn't that weird? This was in Beverly Hills on the corner of Olympic and Ladue, and they turn up in my store. 2 brushes and a comb, and it's got violets painted on it, and it's probably from about 1909, and somebody came in and wanted to buy just one brush, and I thought, well, that's crazy if I sell the one brush then. And then I said to her, "Well, how much would you like to give me for the brush?" And she was willing to give me what I was asking for the whole set.
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay." So she took the brush. Then later somebody else came in and wanted the comb and the mirror.
Okay.
So I sold the comb and the mirror.
Nice.
And then this is what's left. So,
Okay, nice.
And I just kind of use it to brush things, you know.
Okay.
So it was a lady's vanity set, you know.
I had been walking past your store for probably years, And finally I come in. Oh my
This
God.
used to belong to John Philip Law, and he was the angel in Barbarella. And he spent a lot of time overseas in Thailand and in, exotic places. And so he brought that back from one of his trips. And let's see what else. Well, we just have something for everyone.
So then, what would you say, like, so when you collect these items, like, you had mentioned earlier, like, what is it that like, how do you come across all this stuff? Like, where do you, like, because this is, like, just, I can't even explain it, but it's just so, like...
This is weird. Sometimes I'm in my house and I'll open a closet and there'll be a coat and I think, where did that come from? I have no idea how it got there. But I used to have a lot of nannies when my daughter was young.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe a nanny left it years ago and I never saw it. I find things, or people give me things. Okay, here's a story.
Yeah.
One day a friend of mine pulled up in his pickup truck and he had a lamp or something like a chandelier that he wanted me to sell for him. And it was wrapped in this filthy piece of some kind of wool something.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at this wool thing and thinking, I wonder if he's going to leave that for me. And after a while, he saw me still looking in the truck, and he said to me, you don't want this whole thing, do you? And I said, yeah, I could maybe cut it up and make purses.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, here, take it. So I took it, and I took it over to the rug cleaner, and I said, how much would it cost to have this cleaned? And he said, $400. And I said, is it worth it? I said, $400. And he said, yeah. And I said, okay. And he said, yeah, but I won't clean it unless you let me mend it first, because it had holes in it.
Okay.
And I said, well, how much is that going to cost me? He said, $425. And I said, is it worth it? He said, do you have any idea what this is? I said, yeah, it's this old piece of rug that somebody found in an alley down in Long Beach. He said, lady, this is a Diné Navajo rug from the early to mid 1800s. Early 1800s. And it's worth about $5,000.
Oh my God.
So I said, clean it. So I took it and I hung it in my house in New Mexico. And then one day I went in there with some other, my friend Cy Litmanoff, who was the producer of, I'm not a name dropper, just everyone I know is famous, right?
I can tell.
Cy produced Walkabout and Man Who Fell to Earth and a bunch of those movies. So Cy, and Clockwork Orange, I think, but I'm not sure about that. And so Cy gave me a couple of rugs and a bunch of placemats that he had picked up years ago when he was in New Mexico. And I had helped him put together a garage sale when he was moving to the motion picture home. So as a gift, he gave me these rugs, and they were full of moth eggs and everything. So I put them immediately into a trash bag and sealed it off so that they couldn't get into my things. And then I took them over to this guy, and he was going to clean them for me. And then I said to him, do you remember that rug I bought in a long time ago? And he said, oh yeah. I said, what do you think it's worth now? And he said, about $10,000. And right after he told me it's worth $5,000, I'll be right with you. Right after he told me it was worth $5,000, I had to go up to Washington for something, so I took it with me.
Yeah.
And I was going to put it on the floor, and I thought, I'm not going to do that. But I took another rug in to be cleaned at another place.
Yeah.
And when I went to pick up my rug, I took this in with me, and I said, what do you think of this? By this time, it's mended, and it's perfectly
Oh
clean.
my
And
gosh.
the guy took one look at it, and he said, oh my God. He said, this is very rare. This is very valuable. I said, well, what's valuable? He said, at least $5,000. So I got the same price for two separate people in two different states. Yeah. So now it's worth $10,000.
And that's just of you just someone that just came to give you something else, and you saw that in this truck. Yeah. And I do really think it's important to kind of ask for things like that, right? Because I was like, oh, you want this? Yes, of course. Being that yes, saying yes, and then saying yes to the universe, so many things come by. Because even when I was walking here, I was like, oh, yeah, you were like, come in. And I was like, yes, come in. And I would have never known what was in here because I passed by it and I'm like, one day I'm going to go in there. And I was like, it's going to probably be closed. I don't know. Then I came in, and then for me, what really hit home are the pieces of makeup. because like I started the new journey in filming makeup, and that was like kind of like a sign that I am on the right path, if that makes sense.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I find things all the time by the roadside or somewhere, and I always feel it's a gift from the universe for
Yeah.
something that I have just done. Oh, this is what I'm doing right now. This is how we opened our store originally. We make these baskets out of recycled clothing, and I recently taught a course for free. It's a volunteer at the Cancer Community Support. Cancer Support Community in Sierra Madre. And so we taught the people how to make these baskets so that they could have something to give away for Christmas, and I supplied everything they needed, and then they could fill them up with stuff from the 99-cent store.
Nice.
And that way they could have Christmas presents to give out. And a lot of them had spent so much on their cancer treatment.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of money left over.
How did you find out? How did you like learn how to do this?
There was a woman in Washington who walked into the hospital one day for a very simple back surgery, and she came out in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. And then her husband left her. And then she started making these baskets. And so she was selling them in an art gallery up there, and I was doing a poetry venue every month. We had a featured poet, and everybody would come from all over and do their poetry. And I asked if she would teach me how. I asked the owner of the store, and somehow it never happened. I said, look, I'll promise I will never sell them in Washington. I just want to learn how to do it. Well, she didn't, so I went online and I found out how to do it. And originally when we opened the store, we had yarn and we had baskets that we were making, and then we had knitting lessons. And so, because in my culture, first we say our talent is our gift from Great Spirit or from the universe, and what we do with our talent is what we give back.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so we wanted to teach women, this became a hub for women that were either being abused or were having problems here in the neighborhood. They would all come down here and talk about their problems, and we would try to help them find a solution to whatever it was. And we were pretty good at it, And so I then started trying to teach people to do things that they could earn their own money,
Yeah.
and not be reliant on a husband or someone for an allowance, or you have a budget and you can't spend this and you can't buy that. You should be allowed to have your own money to do with as you please, because you work very hard,
Yeah.
cooking dinner, making beds, cleaning the house, taking care of the children and all that. So that was our thing, to try to give women, and we taught them how to knit, and she was teaching crochet as well, my partner. So that was really good. And recently I was teaching quilts, how to make quilts.
Oh, nice.
Lap quilts for women and men that were about to go into chemo, so they could take something from home that was something cherished and something that was made with love, and they don't have that starched, stiff blanket that they give you when you go into
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so and they'd asked me to do it again in the spring, because apparently my two events, teaching my classes, had more people sign up than they'd ever had in all
Wow.
of their classes. So
Wow. So it really did.
yeah, so I'm just going to keep on doing it. I have to. I can't not.
Yeah, and I love how you said that. It's like your talent is to give it back. You said.
Well, they say that our talent is a gift from Great Spirit or from the universe, and what we do with that talent is our way of giving it back. In fact, one time I tried out for a movie. It was a student film, and they were looking for someone in the art department. So I sent my resume, and the guy called me up. He said, "Listen, lady," he said, "I'm really sorry, but he said, this is a student film, and we're not paying." And I said, "No, I know." And he said, "Well, why would a woman with your credits want to do a movie for free?"
Yeah.
And I said, "To give back to the industry that has given me so much." He said, you're on the movie." And I said, "How about my daughter? She's in costuming." He said, "Lady, any child raised by a woman with your attitude can do any movie I ever make." And so she came on, and funny, when she got there, she said to me, "Mom, we were standing right in line behind them at the Sundance Film Festival. They had a film at the festival."
Whoa.
Yeah, so she got to work on it, and the minute she came on, a woman came rushing in saying, I'm so sorry, but I got a paying job and I have to quit." And so they turned to dates, and she said, yeah, I'm up to it. And so she wound up being the on-set dresser. The woman had already designed all the costumes, but she was the on-set dresser and took care of everything. So,
Wow.
And now she's a much demand costumer, and well, there's a different word for what she does. She's like the key costumer, whatever the top echelon is below designer.
Okay.
She's that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So many different lives.
Yeah, so there was Little Foss and Big Halsey with Bob Redford, and I did I was on chairs for 10 years in the bar, and I was always a person who would be filming those cliffhangers because they didn't want people to tell what was going to be the cliffhanger, the answer to it, so they would bring me in on the cliffhanger movies. Series, issue, whatever they call them. And I did a lot of Love Boat, and I did, God, we're talking about 50 years ago. I was in Drum, Little Foss and Big Halsey, Drum, Under the Cherry Moon, and the most recent, I just did a film short, and I played a woman who runs a motel, and the girl comes in and wants a room, and I don't remember the name, but it was taken to, I believe, the Toledo Film Festival recently, and it was made by a woman called, her last name is Gallo, Carissa Gallo.
Okay.
It was her first film, so that was fun. And then I've made a few films. Well, I wrote my first 2 teleplays when I was 18, 19 years old. My boyfriend and I were living with Max Fair Jr., and we decided to write 2 screenplays for the Beverly Hillbillies. And everyone said, well, that's crazy. They have a little pot of writers that do Green Valley, or Green Acres, and Petticoat Junction, and the Hillbillies, and so they don't buy outside scripts, so we wrote them anyway. And I would kind of dance around the room and play all the parts, and my friend would just sit there typing. And so they actually bought them, and they were actually filmed. So I did my first thing when I was 19, and then from there I started modeling, and then I started doing beauty pageants because I wanted to get a scholarship somewhere. I had wanted to go, I was accepted at University of Mexico, and I wanted to be a ballerina / archaeologist. And so I needed money, though, to be able to go down there and live in Mexico and all that. And so I started doing the beauty pageant circuit, and then somehow got sidetracked and wound up being a concert performer. And it just kept unfolding. It was like a flower unfurling, and every time I turned around there was some new thing that I was doing, and much more satisfying than the last thing. So
yeah, and so what you would say, like, because I'm hearing that you've just how have you been able to experience all these different journeys? Do you feel like it's been at the right time, the right place? Is it like what advice would you give someone that is an artist and believes in their art, but they just don't know where to go?
So much of the things that have occurred in my life was because I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I think that one of the things I always do, I know that I have completely changed cells every 7 years. So every 7 years I reinvent myself. And whatever that journey takes me to is where I go. I discovered when my late husband passed away that the way that people saw me or perceived me was always, well, I was the boss's daughter, or the boss's girlfriend, or the boss's wife. And after he died, I suddenly realized, oh my God, I am the boss. Now I am in charge of my life and what happens to me, and no one else is in charge. So whatever I want, I'm going to have to work for it, and I'm going to have to decide what I want. And it turned out that I used to do garage sales, and people used to call me the queen of the garage sale. And I always thought, God, if I only had a store, I wouldn't have to stand out here all weekend long, you know? And eventually I bought this building for my daughter and her then future husband, and they opened a store here. And I took over and had my own store in 2013. I started the store. I'll just say, you know, if you're a painter, then go around to restaurants and ask if you can hang your paintings in their restaurant, and you'll give them 10% or 20 or whatever. Whatever you do, get it out there. You're not gonna, people aren't gonna know who you are if you're just sitting in your bedroom at home or on the internet. So, and the internet now is kind of taken over. I'll tell you a story. When we were in concert, we did all the music behind Timothy Leary's celebrations, Peter Walker, my concert partner, and I hadn't seen Timothy in years. And one day I was I was producing a book sale thing to implement our library at the Oak School. And suddenly I look and, oh my God, there's Timothy across the room. I went, what? And I said, Timothy, what's been going on? What have you been doing all these years? And he said, I found a new drug. And I said, a new drug? What is it? And he said, and he whispered in my ear, the internet. And I didn't know what he meant because we didn't have internet yet, you know?
Wow.
So eventually I was able to get a bunch of computers for the school, and I did all these fundraisers for them. I'm really great at fundraising. I was born to fundraise. So the thing is, if you don't let people know what your talents are, they won't know. And they won't appreciate that part of you because you keep it hidden. So you have to really, yeah, there are all these, websites and things. So it's very good if you're an artist, put your art up on your website. If you don't want it on your personal page, open a page that's just your art and just keep putting it up don't flood the thing, but every week or every few days put up a new painting. This is my latest painting. It's for sale. My paintings are available for rent for, when they stage houses. I have a real estate license also. And so when people stage houses, they need really great art. If you think your art is that great that it'll sell a house.
More digital form as far as like storytelling.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. So for me, I think as an when I say artist, I feel like it's more than painting. I feel like it is. I think the number one artist would be a storyteller. And I mean, you're a writer.
Yeah, and a storyteller. That's my whole culture. We are storytellers.
Right, because you're telling a story in a painting. Mm-hmm. I'm telling a story with this. I'm telling a story with this camera. With your stores telling a story. I think that's the best form of art.
I have a book that I'm just in the final edit, and it's a collection of short stories, and they're common thread short stories. And originally I wanted to write a book about the very strong female ancestors in my lineage, and I have a very rare woman chief in my lineage. But when I started to write her story, I realized it's a one horse pony, and there's not really, I didn't want to do the research. She ran across Lewis and Clark when they came through the Pacific Northwest and had a run-in with them and, put them in their place, let me tell you. And so I didn't write her story because it didn't seem that it had a good punchline. But the second story is about my great-grandmother, whose husband was a miner, and he went down to Walla Walla to have some ore assayed while he was down there. And he said, be careful because claim jumpers might come. And sure enough, they came. And so I tell the story of how she thwarted them and managed to save the Iconoclast, which was the name of his mine. And then the second story I wrote was about my earliest memory of my mother. And then I didn't have a story about my grandmother, but then I told a story about a fictive kin. I decided, okay, I don't have enough women with a strong, story to tell, but I'll tell stories of the son and daughters they bore. We had a story about a stallion that was stolen from us. My great-grandfather went back to Maine where he was born and brought horses back because he said we didn't have good horses on the res because we had wild mustangs, right? So he brought back a good stud horse, and it was stolen by family. And I know the story because as children growing up, you hear the stories over and over and over. And somebody would say to my cousin Stella, "Oh, Stella, you already told us that story." And I'd say, "Young man, you sit down and listen to that story. She's telling it to you so that you will always remember it and you will tell your children." Our children have to know who they are and where they came from. And so I wrote the story. It's called Smoke, and it's about this horse that was stolen. And then I went to visit my cousin Stella, and she told me a story I had never heard about my grandparents. I knew how they met, but I didn't realize some other part of it, which I can't tell you because it's a secret. And when she told me that story, I just sat down and, man, the story just flowed. And I wrote this incredible story called Courtship about my grandparents. And it starts, my book starts in the 1800s, I think around 1873, and it ends at 1973 on an island in Sri Lanka, and it's about me and another courtship. So I had an agent who wanted to take it to the University of New Mexico Press, and then he died 3 months after he signed me, and then COVID hit, and so and then I thought I needed to do, I don't know, then I thought I might need to do a little bit more editing. And
Yeah.
I want to pick some photos to put in it and all that.
Yeah.
Because it's historical fiction.
Yeah.
I already have the stories. I have the bricks, so I just put the mortar in and put.
So
them
what
all
is a
together.
story to you?
What is a story?
Yeah.
It's a sharing of a time in someone's life, like a memoir. It's something that will lift your spirits. It's something that will make you fall in love with. I think reading is one of the deepest joys I've ever known. And then I started writing, and I fell in love all over again.
So you would say it's an experience.
Oh,
It's sharing an experience of something that happened,
yeah.
so that you could connect with
Yeah,
that person.
Or even something that you thought of that could be something.
Like
know,
surreal.
Somewhat. Like I have a story which I haven't written yet, but it's about a woman who paints a painting of the house of a guy that she went to high school with. And then they start going together years later. They run across each other at a funeral of a classmate, and they start seeing each other. And that's when she paints this painting for him, and she builds a garden for him and all this. And then he breaks up with her. And so at night, sometimes she'll know what he's doing, or she'll pop up in places where he is. And he always thinks, how did she know? He goes to Chicago, and she turns up in Chicago.
Yeah. And how do you show the
But
emotions
wait, let me
without
finish
telling?
that.
Okay.
So it turns out when he's walking up the stairs one night to his bedroom, the painting is hanging on the wall on the stairway. And when he turns off the light upstairs, there's a little light in the window in the painting, and then she switches the light off. She's gone to live inside the painting, inside his house. So that's one that I'm developing right now.
And where did you get that inspiration?
It was a true story, basically.
Okay.
Wait, I wonder if I can do this. This is a true story. I'm going to try this. I said coffee. I didn't say, would you like to cup my warm, soft breast in your uncalloused, long, tapered, ringless fingered hands? I said coffee. I didn't say, would you like to run your tongue along my neck just below my left earlobe? I said coffee. I didn't say, would you like to hold me in your arms and feel my heart beat against yours as you press your hard, lean body up against mine until I melt into you with desire? I said coffee as we stood there in the jasmine-scented night, my car door like some modern-day bundling board separating us, protecting us from ourselves and lust. I said, would you like to go for a cup of coffee? I didn't say, would you like to brush your lips across mine as you move silently to bury your face in my long, silky, raven black hair? But you said, I can't. I'm married. I can't trust myself to be alone with you. So I looked you dead in the eye and repeated, I said coffee. Now that's a true story.
Wow.
And that one was the first one that I was nominated for the pushcart.
Okay.
And I've been nominated for that poem again when it was published again somewhere else. So that's my favorite poem that I've ever written.
Yes.
How do you show and not tell? Like, you don't want to, you still want your audience to be able to come up with what it is that you're trying to say, right? You don't want to just tell them.
Well, it's about imagery.
Imagery, yeah.
So my poetry has great imagery.
Okay.
And they usually have a punchline. And the very important thing about writing is beginning, middle, and end. Some people have a beginning and ending, and they don't have a middle, all right? The other thing is who, how, why, what, when, and where. You have to remember the basics of writing. And then you just sit down at a blank page. What I do sometimes is I do a dialogue thing. So I'll write a line like, what are you eating? And then that's the first voice. Then the second voice says, why do you want to know? Or
Okay.
doing granola, or and that's how you learn to write dialogue.
Okay.
You take the blank page and you do it every morning at the exact same time, 15 minutes, and you don't edit. You just write whatever comes out.
Okay.
And so I do that a lot when I'm writing. And my stories generally have a twist.
Okay.
I don't expect.
Okay.
And so I don't give it away in the beginning because I know that when I get to the end,
Yeah.
I go, the
So it's
aha moment.
so it's kind of like a misdirection in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So just you would say that the best way to get better at telling stories would be to just start with dialogue and imagery?
Find out what your story is about and do a treatment, basically, like, or decide what you're going to write about. When I started my book, I knew that I wanted to write a book, and I knew what I wanted to write about, and I was on a vaporetto in Venice, going through the canals, and all of a sudden this idea came to me about the iconoclast, and I immediately said, I need to get off, I need to get off. And they brought me to a thing, and I immediately got back to my hotel, went upstairs, and sat down at the typewriter and just started typing. And by the time I left Italy, I had 2 stories written completely. The one, Murmur, which is about my mother, and then the one about the iconoclast.
Okay.
I also do research.
What is that?
It's a poem called Murmur. And
Okay.
it was what I do when I want to have kids learn to write.
Yeah.
I sometimes say to them, what is your earliest memory? And then they tell me, and I say, okay, that's the beginning of your book. You can always throw it away later, but that's where you start your book. And
Yeah.
I can barely see this writing is so little.
I guess it's just like all stories have to have a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
They do, right? Is ego and shadow a conflict?
I don't think so.
No.
So let's live in the shadows.
Yeah.
And
What
we
is
all
the
have
shadow
an
for
ego.
you? What does the shadow mean? The shadow, your shadow side,
It would be,
as an artist. Yeah.
I think it was Anais Nin who said, there's no such thing as writer's block, just secrets you're afraid to tell or not willing to tell.
That makes sense, because then you're afraid
Yeah.
of judgment. You're afraid of a lot of things that might come of showing your truth. I think that makes sense, because when you get to a writer's block, it's either because you stopped experiencing, and or you're creating or filming for validation. And you knew Bruce Lee.
I love Bruce. And you know what pissed me off so much? That jackass Tarantino
Yeah.
making that movie where they made him sound like, I don't know what. I mean, he's one of the humblest people I ever knew in my life, and they made him look like an ass.
Oh, they did?
I think so.
What movie was that?
That stupid one about the murders. It's something in Hollywood. I don't know.
Oh, Once Upon a Time.
Yeah. And I stopped going to Margot Robbie movies after she played Sharon. I thought, how could anyone think
Or
that it's
Margot
right to do this?
Ruby?
Yeah, Margot Robbie,
Yeah.
R-O-B-E-Y. She played Sharon, and she made Sharon seem like an airhead. I just was so upset. And then you've got Steve McQueen gossiping about people. Steve would never have said anything about Jay ever, you know.
And I think they use that because they need some type of contrast, right? They like, I feel like that's why it's important to have documentaries on artists, because you see their truth. And art is really the expression of the self. So the most creative is the most personal. What you habitually think largely determines what you will ultimately become.
And it's never too late to be what you might have been.
Yeah.
That's something important to remember, because, you know, there were times in my life when I would have wanted to do certain things, but it just wasn't the right time, or it didn't happen. But I can still pursue it. And like, if I want to go now and be an archaeologist, I can do it.
Oh yeah.
So never give up your dreams. So I'll read it. This one was actually nominated for the Pushcart, and it's been published in about, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 different anthologies.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay. She was on the ragged edge of sleep in those dark, velvety moments just before dawn, in the small, crowded bedroom of the old Spanish bungalow on Vista Grande, the small bedroom she shared with her sister, and a year later with a newborn baby brother. Her dark-eyed sister Nicole lay sleeping in the twin bed which ran crosswise at the foot of her own long, narrow bed, curled up on her side facing the wall, with its swirls of white wedding cake plaster, black hair and pink rubber curlers. Her older sister slept, unaware, undisturbed. Some unidentifiable murmur in the dark and distant garden with its tangle of fruit trees and brick-edged, moss-covered, herringbone pathways had awakened her, terrified her. She lay there shaking under her thin blanket, sobbing into the softness of a feather pillow, encased in its delicately embroidered slip, sewn by a grandmother who lived far away but dreamt of her nightly. She sent beaded moccasins at Christmas and braid tie bows for her birthday. The light went on in the turquoise and gray tiled deco bathroom that separated the master bedroom from the small room with its textured white walls and large picture window, the room they called the nursery. The warm glow from the night light spilled out into the room from the crack beneath the door with its crystal doorknobs. Shadows danced menacingly across the ice walls. There it was again, that sound. Then the door opened and her mother's arms were around her, petting her, smoothing her hair, brushing her tiny bangs from her forehead, patting her on the back, whispering, shh, into her tiny ear. There, baby, don't cry. She almost sang the words, tender and somewhat out of key. Then the sound again. Oh, oh. It's just a mourning dove calling to his mate. Oh, oh. She had not the slightest idea what a mourning dove was, but she believed her. She trusted her. She had no reason not to, yet. The child stopped crying as she breathed in her mother's perfumed aroma, now full of the musky scent of sleep and dreams. Then the small body in the vastness of the twin bed relaxed in her mother's arms as tears were wiped from her emerald-thick lashed eyes, first with gentle fingertips, then the silky corner of a chenille dressing gown. The young mother slipped into the narrow bed with the child, kissed away the remaining tears, and held her tightly against her breast until she drifted off once more to the unparalleled safety of sleep. Oh, oh. Years later, lying naked in a spacious antique wooden bed in a bougainvillea-covered villa in Tuscany, the woman who grew from the child would tell her lover this was her earliest memory.
Oh, wow. And how long did you model for?
Oh gosh, I started modeling, well, when I started doing the beauty pageants, I was also modeling on the side. But once Willie signed me, just took off. I was constantly working, and I had a 2-hour minimum. I refused to work less than 2 hours, and it had to be 200 an hour at the beginning.
Wow. What did you love about modeling?
I loved the clothing that this is James Riva.
Whoa, 1970s?
Yeah. And that's James Riva again.
Right, you get to put on the best clothes in the
Yeah.
world.
And that's when I was with Commercials Unlimited. I did a Clairol commercial. And that's Austin, I forget his first name. It was a shop in Beverly Hills. Alan Austin. Oh yeah, there, it says it right there.
Wow.
And that's a wig. So I like dressing up. And I liked being, and I also worked for Playboy as a stylist.
No way.
So, yeah, I repped a photographer, and one day they said, that was during my bikini pageant days. And then they said to him one day, who's your stylist? And he said, I don't have one. Well, who does all this? He says, oh, my rep does it. Then I found out that was an actual job.
Oh, wow.
So this one, Blake Edwards commissioned photographer Ron Joy to do a photo session with me to see if I was photogenic. What do you think? Duh.
Yeah, very much.
Charmaine, do you want me to lock it?
I'll do it. It's a Pancaldi shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That was a commercial I did for Days Pants. I'm riding a unicorn. I've got a peregrine falcon on one wrist. I've got a harlequin Great Dane zigzagging in and out of the horse's hoofs as I'm cantering.
Whoa. Nice. The life.